Şimdi değerli konuklar, Türkiye'nin yeşil dönüşümü ve Türk finans sektörü için fırsatlar başlıklı oturumumuz başlayacak. Panelistlerimizi ve panelin moderatörlüğünü yapmak üzere EBRD, Green Economy Transition FI, Principal Banker Alevtina Deniz'i sahneye davet ediyorum. Merhaba.
Merhabalar.
Sahne sizde. Buyurun.
Çok sağ olun. I'm delighted to be here today and moderate this green discussion on a transformation in the Turkish financial sectors with our distinguished speakers, which I will invite to a stage introduced to you in a moment. Green transformation and climate mainstreaming at the institution level lie at the heart of EBRD's own Paris alignment methodology of indirect finance. This means that we are putting at the very heart a transformative change, and we look forward to work with our financial institution clients toward green transition. EBRD has always been about transformation, and we plan to be working with our FI clients as closely as ever on the ambition transition journey to a low-carbon economy. This green transformation has been well under the way in the Turkish financial years for some years now, and today we will hear more about evolution of green finance landscape in the local market and how financial institutions have been developing their business model to support the green transition. We will also be hearing a perspective from EBRD and how we can provide further support to our clients. We look very much forward to stimulating the discussion, and it is with a great pleasure I would like to introduce and call on the stage our distinguished speakers. Başak Yetişen Teker from Banking Regulation Supervision Agency of Turkey, Gamze Yalçın, Executive Vice President of İşbank, Meral Murathan, Executive Vice President of TSKB, Burcu Şirin, Executive Vice President of Yapı Kredi Leasing Company, and my colleague from EBRD, Ksenia Brakman, Associate Director of Green Financial Systems. Yes, and to start, I think we would like to first of all start with the evolution of market landscape in Turkey. And my first question will be to Başak from BRSA. Could you please describe the evolution of green finance landscape in Turkey over the years, and maybe speak a bit about what were the key milestones?
Thank you, Alevtina. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I am very happy to be here, and I hope this panel would be very beneficial for all of us. As you know, that Turkish banking sector has been engaged green finance activities for a long time. However, with the ratification of the Paris Agreement and Green Action Deal in 2021, has been accelerated the green finance activities for both banks and for us as a regulator. Let me summarize the main actions until today. Actually, first action was performed in 2014. The Turkish Banking Association published sustainability guidelines for banks. And after that, in 2018, the BRSA published its research regarding the sustainability activities of banking sector. These were the very minor efforts for the sustainable finance issues. I think the key development for us the membership of the SBFN, Sustainable Banking and Finance Network, and the last year, 2021, NGFS membership, because these two institutions, working groups, are very active in this market, and they provide us very peer-to-peer review analysis, thematic working groups. Actually, these working groups understand the other jurisdictions' actions, and actually they motivate us to do something about the green transition of the economy. And we actively participate BCBS meetings regarding the climate-related task force. You know that there's a big discussions regarding the integration of the climate-related risk into the prudential framework. So, as a regulatory and supervisory authority, BRSA has been attending this kind of working groups, and we get very important inputs for our studies. Actually, as you know that, both globally and locally, the initiatives and discussions has increased after 2020. ECB, BCBS, all standard-setting bodies published their discussions and studies. Also, 2021 was a very important year for Turkey because all Green Action Deal has been announced, and also BRSA published its strategic plan, which set forth principles and procedures for the sustainable banking principles and the roadmap of the banking activities. I think these were the important milestones. Let me mention two important regulatory initiatives we recently carried out. The last year, you may know that we published a guideline regarding the loan origination and monitoring guideline. This is important because it defined the sustainable lending and also required banks include some ESG criteria while they are providing loan credits. So this is a good step, I think. And the recent development regarding the risk management of the climate-related risk, you know that it's a kind of financial risk, but authorities are searching the ways of how to capture this kind of unique and complex risks. So, as a regulatory authority, we require our banks to submit their clarifications regarding their activities, how they assess climate-related risk, how they define risk. We know that this is a starting example, but it provided very valuable input for our studies.
Yes, thank you very much, Başak. And I think after hearing from regulator, let's hear from the banks and leasing companies. I'm curious to hear what banks and leasing companies been doing and how discussed landscape changes helped you to accelerate and shape your efforts towards scaling up green products and services at your institutions. So my first question will be for the Iş Bank. Can you please tell us what motivated you to reshape your product offerings towards green finance, and what was driven by the change? Was it driven by the change in the market landscape and regulatory expectation, or was it something else?
Thank you very much. I hope it's going to be a fruitful event for each of us. To start with your question, I would like to refer to Francis's speech. He mentioned about the necessity, the requirement of determination. So I would like to start with that. First of all, İş Bank is very determined to support green finance. So it lies at the core of İş Bank's strategy. As an emerging market economy with the need of energy, Turkey has been investing heavily in renewable energy generation projects, as we all know, in the last 10 to 15 years. And definitely, as one of the major players in the Turkish banking system, as İşbank, we have been playing a key role within this process. To clarify with facts and figures, let me share with yourselves that since 2015, it is only the renewable energy generation projects that we have appetite for new project financing. In 2020, we also reflected this policy to our publicly disclosed financial exclusion list and committed not to finance greenfield investments of coal and natural gas-fired thermal power plants. As a result of this strategy, the share of renewable energy financing within İşbank's power generation projects portfolio has reached to almost 80% levels. So, strategically, and being aware of our responsibilities in green transformation, as İşbank, we set our agenda accordingly in such a way that it includes actions that will have an impact on green transformation. And in line with this strategy, first we developed a business model. I mean, starting from reaching to the green financing and then converted to products and services that our client base is in need of for this green transformation. Definitely, as İşbank, we're aware of our responsibilities and our power for the transformation of the economy for a more green one. Of course, it is not only this strategy. Of course, as I said, it is the determination that is required. It's the key factor. But of course, it is also affected by the global and local initiatives and trends and regulatory frameworks, investors' increasing appetite, establishment of international platforms for net zero emissions, disclosure requirements. These are all important factors that affect our strategy. And as we all know, there is some new regulation in place, and we all know that EU has already introduced the Green Deal as well as the carbon border adjustment mechanism. So it's very crucial for us to support our client base in this transformation, in their alignment to these new regulations while exporting their products. And we know that EU is a major trading partner for Turkey, and in that sense, when we look at the sectors, to start with iron and steel, aluminium and cement sectors, these are the prioritized ones because of their intense emissions impact. So definitely it is our responsibility and our priority to advise them, to show them the opportunities with our products. So this is the regulatory landscape. And on top of that, I mentioned about international initiatives like the Net Zero Banking Alliance or the Basel Committee's frameworks or the Financial Stability Board's frameworks. Definitely our local regulatory approach is a top priority in that sense for us to be aligned with. But the international agenda is also a very important part in our strategy actions in that sense. So in brief, determination is the key, but the changing dynamics within the market, like the regulations, like the investors' appetite, like the international initiatives in that sense, definitely help us to shape our strategy.
Thank you so much for sharing also key milestones in your journey and speaking about key drivers of your greening transition and innovation on the green products. And now I would like to also ask a development bank, Meral Hanım, a development bank mandate at your institution, how it helped you, how it shaped your strategy, and how your type of clients that you work with help to shape your approach towards scaling up green products and green innovation at TSKB?
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure today being here, along with all the mutual targets to achieve hopefully all together. As you kindly indicated, TSKB is a development and investment bank, and this year we celebrated our 73rd anniversary. And as a development and investment bank, since our foundation, we are trying to contribute to the sustainable development of Turkey, along with our DFI contributors, along with our initiative memberships, FIs, IFIs, and of course with our investors. So the key is, the key issue that we are taking into consideration is that sustainability is not just a dot or point that you would like to achieve once and you will leave it at your back behind. Sustainability is, I assume all of us consider in the same way, is that sustainability is a never-ending journey, while the destination is very clear and obvious. And today's obvious determination, I strongly agree with this wording as well, is that the climate mitigation and adaptation. So it's a long journey, and in TSKB's sustainability strategy, which also tends to change along with the development initiatives, perspectives, and the requirements of the global strategies too. But currently we have 3 aims, and this has been the case for the last 6 to 7 years. Of course, supporting sustainability development model of Turkey, playing an active role in combating and adapting climate change. This has been introduced especially after the Paris alignment, and now we are very happy that hopefully within common days we will be also, our government authorities will be also sharing the details of our NDCs along with net zero targets of the country. And last but not least, financing and contributing to Turkey's transition into a low-carbon economy. So this is a collaborative approach. We need funding for this, we need awareness, we need capacity, both inside and outside of our status and in our stakeholders. So what we are trying to do is basically, it's in our core, reflecting your question, we are trying to bridge and connect the mutual interests of the medium and long-term strategies of all of our stakeholders and achieving the sustainability targets of the country as a local and national development and investment bank. That being said, the ownership of the topic, I will say in quotation topic, sustainability agenda is quite critical from our point of view. And how we do govern sustainability, perhaps a couple of words only in TSKB. We have a sustainability committee owned, of course, by the presence of our board members. And we have a sustainability for board members, by the way. We have a sustainability management committee, which involves 8 working groups. And from time to time, following the priorities of the dynamic changes in the global environment, we might change these working groups as well. So what we are trying to do is not to top to bottom, perhaps not from bottom to top, but as an integrated and circular way of thinking in the institution. Currently, we have a strategy working group, climate working group, stakeholder communication working group, SDG mapping, sustainability monitoring systems to measure the carbon emissions, and also indices and rating agencies compliance working group. This type of a structure makes us a bit more comfortable when keeping up our focus in sustainability in the institution and developing further consistently. Last but not least, in terms of balance sheet of the bank, of course, very well related with also, we cannot ignore this, the development banking nature of the bank. The 80 to 81% of our liabilities are attributable to ESG funding, and 93% of our assets are attributable to SDG linked loans, not linked, backed loans, and we do measure those as well. And very finally, 61% of the SDG-backed loans are well attributed with the environment and climate. So hopefully it's going to continue as a very fruitful meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this inspiring and amazing experience. And I think it's really great that you have this initiative running through all your organization, and such a large portion of your balance sheet is associated with the ESG and greening of your institution. And now maybe we can speak a little bit more about leasing. What about leasing, Burcu? Could you please describe what accelerated your shift toward green products, and how do you see the leasing sector in Turkey contributing to the transition to a low-carbon economy, and what are the products and services that you provide in this area?
Yeah. Thank you very much. We are so glad to be here. First, I want to give a research outcome about evolution. Due to Future Bright and Conda numbers, 5 years ago, only 1.5% of the population in Turkey was speaking about sustainability. After COVID, the number became 48%, and after the fires last summer, it became 77%. At the moment, the companies are very much aware of the fact, and we see that many companies have sustainability teams, etc. We, as Yapı Kredi Leasing, started sustainability projects with renewables. 10 years ago, we started with wind projects. Then came photovoltaics, and at the moment we are intensely leasing rooftop solar projects. In rooftop solar projects, it's so common to make leasing as financing all over the world. For example, 9% of the whole rooftop solar projects in Turkey was financed by Yapı Kredi Leasing alone. Yes, we are the biggest leasing company, but we are not the only leasing company who focus on rooftop solar, so the penetration is really high. In the beginning, we were pushing the customers to invest in sustainability. We had worked on rooftop solars, and we had tell about rooftop solars to customers for 3 years without doing any business. And then, after the increase in the energy cost all over the world and decrease in the panel equipment costs, it became more feasible. It's a funny story. I was going to speak in an exhibition in Ankara, and I was working on my speech in the plane. The moment I get on the plane, the amortization maturity was 6 years. The moment I get off the plane, it became 5 years. So I had to change my speech because the electricity cost increased while we were flying. So at the moment, we believe that it will be more feasible, and the companies are very enthusiastic.
Thank you very much for the industry perspective. I mean, really great insights. And Ksenia, what is your assessment of the developments in Turkish market, thanks to products like SEF and GEF? And can you maybe share with us some success stories?
Yes, thank you. And I'm too very pleased to be here today, and actually looking back at 12 years of green financing facilities in Turkey. And in fact, behind those years and investments, we have real stories of real companies from Turkey. And in fact, looking at the numbers, we have financed 8,000 projects worth together more than 2 billion euros. And these were projects across the board. So from residential energy efficiency investments to small, medium-sized companies and larger or mid-caps in terms of companies investing in resource efficiency projects and renewables, as colleagues mentioned. And it has been quite a journey for us as an institution in Turkey, but also I must admit we wouldn't have been as successful if we didn't have our partner financial institutions. And we are absolutely grateful to have your knowledge and your courage and determination to help us deliver those green investments to the ground, to all regions of Turkey and industries. And just speaking about the success stories and examples, looking back at 2010 when the first facility was launched in Turkey, the share of solar PV in Turkish energy generation has been insignificantly small. And we as a BRD, we have several instruments to push and accelerate renewable energy developments. And one important element is, of course, financing. And here we relied on local capacity of partner financial institutions, but we also deployed technical advisory resources. We have attracted our generous donors. We have worked with governments to introduce new policies. And I'm absolutely delighted that today solar PV generation counts for almost 4% of the country's electricity generation, and the trend is going up, and we have contributed to this development jointly. And then, of course, mentioning all these big numbers, and I said we have real companies and real stories behind, and I just wanted to mention maybe a few to also demonstrate how widely we have covered different industries. For example, under Tursev, we have helped a textile company, Karem and Prime from Istanbul, to replace production machinery. And the company managed to reduce and cut energy bills by 40%. In today's tariffs, it would be incredible gain for the company. And we, of course, publicized those experiences widely and showed textile companies in Turkey, but also around in different countries of operations of the BRD, this success story. So there are many followers to those success. Then there was a number of projects that we have supported in cement industry, and one of speakers already mentioned cement being one of the difficult to abate sectors. There was one project that I remembered, which was Götlaş Cement, where we, through a partner institution, invested 34 million euros, and the company annually saved on energy bills 6 million. It's incredible what can be achieved. And again, this project was implemented several years ago, so in today's energy prices, the gain would be substantially higher. And maybe last but not least, Turkey is well known for tourism industry, and I looked up at one of the projects that we have invested in. It was a hotel in Kuşadası, which replaced or implemented a number of energy efficiency measures, from heat pumps to solar water heaters, and installed LED lighting, resulting in annual savings of 60,000 euros. And these are real companies, these are real stories, there are people behind, but behind success of those companies are banks and individual relationship managers in the banks, and the power and understanding of clients, of client needs, and ability to offer financial products and advisory that is available to those companies to start the transition journey. And I want to absolutely congratulate everyone on the panel, but also other Turkish banks for this transition.
Yes, in our audience, thank you very much for sharing these inspiring examples, which are also, I think, supported by the impressive figures of cost saving. And now going back to the regulatory landscape, I have a question for Başak Hanım. Could you please briefly outline the BRSA's Sustainable Banking Strategic Plan and speak a bit about its main components, and tell us more about how climate risk management considerations are embedded into your supervisory practices?
Thank you. The overall strategy and main steps of the green transformation in Turkey were determined through the Green Deal action in 2021, as I mentioned. And this action plan, the BRSA was assigned as to prepare and publish its own strategic plan, sustainable strategy document. Within this context, we published our strategic plan in December 2021. In this plan, our vision is a banking sector that effectively manages the climate-related risks and finance the banking sector's transformation to the low-carbon economy. This is our vision. And we have missions. Actually, you know that the BRSA mandate requires to ensure the financial stability, and it is all accepted that the climate-related risks are the important component of the financial risk. We, as a regulator, we need to eliminate the financial stability issue which threatens the financial stability with mitigating the climate-related risk for the banking sector. And also we have a mission to give guidance to banks, facilitate their low-carbon economy funding and educational role of the banking sector. In order to perform these duties, we have three main goals. First one is the effective management of the climate-related risk. Second one is the developing sustainable finance flows. As all you know that our banks or our financial institutions are very well to fund their financing needs from the international markets with the sustainable finance instrument, but we need to encourage them more regarding this issue. The last thing is the collaboration issue, because the climate-related risk issues interested many parts of the real economy and institutions, so it is important to be in a collaboration, in a coordination manner while we are studying these issues. These are the main components, are the strategic plan that BRSA issued. Let me briefly mention the risk management approach for the climate-related risk. Actually, this is the most difficult one. As a person who has been in designing the Basel framework, FSB framework into our supervisory framework, this is really difficult because we know that it's a risk, but the features of this risk is very distinctive, complex, unique, and the assessment methodologies are very different. That's why all the authorities are discussing in international this issue. But we can say that general consensus on that. It may be most feasible approach to capture these risks in a Pillar 2 framework, as the Pillar 2 framework is more flexible and principle-based. And you know that Basel Committee recently published a document, the main principles for effective management of the climate-related risk. As I mentioned in the starting of my presentation, we asked our banks to explain their climate-related risk effects on their business model, risk profile, and their capital adequacy within the scope with the ICAP reports this year. And we assessed their result as expected that some of our banks are very developed, but some of them very starting points. But our aim is to publishing guideline or standards to converge all the practice at a minimum. We know that every time there will be differences with practice of the banks, but if we provide guidance, we can converge their practice with respect to green transition and risk management approach. I think my thing is that.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing newest initiatives, and it looks like that you've done really great job. And it's also wonderful to hear that, just as Francis was saying, nobody left behind in your approach, and you're really trying to create this cooperation and dialogue among the participants of Turkish financial sector. And after hearing from regulator, I think I would like to give the opportunity to our Turkish financial sector panelists and to the EBRD colleague as well to speak a little more about their organization and explain us and describe us shortly your climate strategy and your journey towards improving climate practices so far. And as a first question, I would like to address it to Miral Hanım, and as one of the first supporters of TCFD among Turkish banks, could you tell us a bit on how you integrated assessment of climate risks in your governance and credit evaluation processes?
Thank you very much for this highlight, and I would like to also thank Başak Hanım, and on behalf of Başak Hanım, of course, for the whole BRSA as a regulatory for their contributions. I'll be linking these all together. So as TSKB, we've been heavily working on climate risks measurement approach and reporting starting from 2019. And this also follows with the IFRS changing dynamics as well, and Basel Committee's requirements. So all the regulatory bodies, external and internal, are heavily and rightfully supporting this agenda. And apart from this, we've been also talking about discussing about the global initiatives changes. Saying that during 2020, right further to the UNEP-FI's being a signatory party for the responsible banking principles, we've decided to go deeper in the climate risks evaluation mechanisms. So during TCFT workings, also with the contribution of EBRD, we've been actively playing a role in TCFT second phase. And then we've increased our activities for the TCFT's phase 3 activities as well. In between, we've delivered TCFT reporting of the bank for climate risks reporting, and it was released during the year 2021. It also allowed us to develop and establish and develop our climate risks policies internally as well. And in that report, very firstly, we've extended our medium to long-term climate targets as well. For example, we said that we will be financing, we will be keeping up our climate and environment-related SDG loans to be above 60% for the next 10 years to go. That being said, refers to 2030. And we said that up until the end of 2023, we will be at a good point, in quotation I would say, to have measured the impacts of climate risks in our loan allocation processes, and to a certain extent embodying these with the provisioning policies as well. As Başak Hanım said, it's a delicate point. There are so many discussions around this, but at least we could say at this point, as TSKB, with our in-house contributions and also with our subsidiary, Eskarus, it's also celebrating its 11th year nowadays, our sustainability subsidiary, all in all individually. So we've internally developed a model for measuring the climate risks during the loan allocation processes, loan evaluation and allocation processes. And we've been also benefiting from Turkey's data for physical risks. Water is the key here. and I mean geographically mapping. And also for the transition risks are embedded here as well. And as Gamze Hanım rightfully pointed out, we've also said that we will not be financing coal, and we will be keeping up coal, including coal fossil fuel-backed financing in our total loan portfolio to be less than 5%. What I am trying to say is that we are committed here, and very lately we become a member of UN Net Zero Initiative, and also we are working on the bank's SBTi, science-based targets, and we have sent for two sectors for their evaluation. Last year, by the end of last year, we've disclosed our finance emissions for CBAM industries in our integrated annual report. So again, to sum up, this is a long journey. The agenda is continuously changing, but the aim is key to tap the ambitious targets. And on our balance sheet, we are trying to channel our rating methodologies, provisioning policies, also with the climate risks. And we will be financing transition risks and along with the physical risks and benefiting, I mean, not benefiting, but utilizing this as an opportunity. And very lastly, I would like to thank to EBRD's GEFF financing, and under that 53.5 million euros, we've tapped 90% of this funding so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing. You know, it looks like all our panelists had such a wonderful, such an insightful, such a full experience on the ESG front and in innovation of green products and in implementing climate risk practices at the organization, that we are running a bit short of time to make sure that we speak about each and every initiative. So thank you so much for sharing. Then again, I would like to stick to our agenda and follow up with the question for Gamze Hanım. Can you please maybe shortly and briefly speak a little bit more how climate, you already spoke about your climate strategy, but maybe you can add a little bit more about your internal governance and how internal governance processes that built in your bank help you to implement your strategy.
Of course, thank you. Back in this August, we celebrated the 98th establishment year of İşbank. So heading towards our second century, it's evident that our relationship with sustainability goes way back. But we have an ever-increasing ESG agenda. To be frank, we weren't aware of the term ESG. But since 2015, we developed our sustainability system within the bank. Within the board, we established our sustainability committee. So the strategy is set from top-down approach. But in order to be successful, what we believe is that the concept, the strategy must be owned by the full employee base. So it's a bottom-up approach as well. But we also aware of the fact that it is not only us. We cannot manage, we cannot be successful if it's, even though owned by each and every employee, or the world-class strategies is set by the board of directors. So we believe the importance of collaborations. So that's why the regulatory frameworks which lead us the way to setting the right strategy with right terms, the changing marketplace dynamics, they are all important in shaping the organization as well. For example, once upon a time, we didn't have sustainability teams within the bank, but now we have specially designed sustainability teams. We have agendas ESG agendas, which is specifically handled by the Sustainability Committee of the board. So these are the developments in line with the changing dynamics within the marketplace. I would like to also mention about the components of the strategy maybe. So the thing is why it's important to have this right top-down strategy and bottom-up approach is that to be, when we look at our client base, of course, we have the households, we have the SMEs, we have the corporates, commercial businesses all. But when we look at the dynamics of the Turkish economy, definitely 2/3 of it is mainly based on SMEs. So our strategy is mainly focusing on the SMEs financing. It is also on the supporting of the women entrepreneurs because this is an untouched area and we need to flourish the women and into the business, into the economy to support the economic activities. And also agriculture is important. So definitely while setting the agendas, the components that we touch upon basically is on the SME financing, is on supporting the women entrepreneurs and the agriculture with digitalization. So we believe that while setting the strategy within all these organization committees, teams, functions, etc., we give priority to these and we know that we can only be successful focusing on these areas, but also not just to inform or increase the awareness of these clients. It is also support them with this transformation, but not only with sustainability context as well, with digitalization. So whatever we do, we try to combine this sustainability. If it's green finance, it is women entrepreneurs. When we look at our products and services base, you will be seeing that for SMEs, we developed an app, Image Mobile, for our agriculture farmers, let me say, for this segment. For the SMEs, we have specially designed websites, tools, etc. to help them. For the women entrepreneurs, we have the training and mentorship programs, which all help them to increase the financial literacy as well as increase the awareness for green transformation, for the sustainability in general. This is a journey, as Meral Hanım already mentioned, but in order to reach to the final destination, we know that we should be all together with all the stakeholders in this
Hand in hand.
journey.
Yes, yes, I think that we heard this message from Başak as well. She mentioned that the collaboration and cooperation of everyone in the financial system is really important for the success of our journey. And I think the Gamze made the same message. And I would like now go to leasing sector because I know that you've been also working toward engaging with your other stakeholders other than customers. And Burcu, can you speak a little bit more about your business model and how you engage with your vendors, but not only internally, but also how do you engage with your employees?
Yeah, thank you. As leasing companies, in fact, we are giving loans like the banks. The difference is we can give loans only to investments and only to companies. So why the customers, some customers prefer leasing? We have some advantages. The first and very well-known advantage is the VAT incentive. We pay 1% VAT instead of 18% in some equipments. In fact, in most of the equipments, including solar panels and energy-efficient equipments. So the customers came to us for this advantage, first of all. But the other and more effective advantage is about the vendors. as you mentioned. As leasing companies, we have a forte to work with the vendors, and we apply this muscle to sustainability projects. We, as Yapı Kredi Leasing, formed ready packages together with EPCs, panel producers, and inverter importance and financing together, and provide it to the customers. It is mostly important for the SME customers because at the moment we are telling every customer about rooftop solars, whatever the reason we are visiting them. And I don't say most of them are interesting, all of them are interested to invest in sustainability, but they don't know how to invest and they are afraid to invest in a wrong direction. So these ready packages are very important. I have to add that our competitors in the leasing sector are making so many good projects as well. The sustainability is a very hot topic in our agenda. About the employees, in fact, in my opinion, the sustainability leasing has 3 advantages for our company. The first is, of course, to protect the environment and make business. The second is reaching long-term financing, which is very hard otherwise. And the third and very interesting advantage for us is employees' loyalty. In the world, many companies are working on how to keep and motivate Generation Z. I highly recommend everyone to involve young employees to sustainability projects. We have the experience because they are leading our sustainability committee at the moment. First, they are more creative. And second, they are very sensitive to environment, sustainability, diversity, which I adore. And third, when they see that there is good things held in the company and they are involved, their loyalty increases. Sometimes it is even more effective than salary increase or other things. I believe in Generation Z, by the way.
Thank you very much for sharing this interesting angle of your business model and this interesting observation. And Ksenia, what about EBRD? Can you speak a little bit more how EBRD plan to support institutions who are embarking on the journey of mainstreaming climate change practices?
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. I see we're running out of
Yes.
time already. So for us, a few fundamental messages. For us, it's really about large-scale transformational change. And we have passed the point of investing yet another euro in green projects. Now we are looking beyond just project engagement. We are looking at the transformation of companies, of financial institutions, of industries and countries towards low carbon and climate resilient future. And how we do it, we engage with companies, with large corporates in steel sector, in energy sector, in ammonia production, fertilizers, and help them develop low carbon pathways. And what it is, effectively, these are investment plans, long-term investment plans, and this is a fantastic opportunity for the banks to intensify relationship and actually help companies to progress to a low carbon future. It's not about the investing, it's actually being there for your customer, understanding customer needs and transforming customers together. And in the financial sector, our key priority at the moment is absolutely putting our partner banks on the transition journey. And I'm super excited to hear that actually Turkish banks and leasing companies seem to be already on the transition journey ahead of the time in many regions of the EBRD, as we can observe. And here, it's not just commitments, empty commitments. We are leading by examples ourselves. We have signed up to TCFD in 2018 as the first multinational development bank, and it was just a week ago that we published our third TCFD report that in very detail describes our climate governance, internal procedures, processes, and our own exposures to climate risks. And in fact, this helps us a big deal because we are leading by example. We understand how difficult it can be on the level of financial institution to change the processes, to change the way we assess projects. And then going to the project level, again, we have 3 pillars that are fundamental pillars for us going forward. One is Paris alignment. What Francis has mentioned, we are now looking at every single project and assessing it against mitigation and adaptation objectives of Paris Agreement and providing recommendations to clients and our executive committees. We look at climate risks of every single project. We are capturing physical climate risks and transition risks so that we can also adequately assess and price those risks or provide dedicated technical advisory to the client to mitigate those risks. And finally, green financing. We continue and will continue to do more. And we have now expanded the way we provide financial resources to maximize the impact. It's not only about credit line facilities, it's green equity, it is green trade finance. We are investing in green bonds, sustainability-linked bonds, and the range of products is ever expanding. And then when it comes to transition journey of partner financial institutions, we absolutely invite everyone to follow example of these amazing banks here in Turkey. And under GEF Turkey, we will have a dedicated, or we already have a dedicated technical advisory package to help our partner banks in those areas where support is needed to tackle issues and challenges. And I'm also absolutely happy to hear that the regulator is moving in the same direction, and we are here to help you to become more climate resilient. And then going to the opportunities, because this is very often being forgotten when we talk about climate risks. People start getting worried. The low carbon and energy revolution is a manufacturing revolution. Turkey, with its geographical location, with capabilities, manufacturing capabilities, and diversified economy, is a unique place to help Europe on the energy transition journey. We will see companies emerging in Turkey in the upcoming years or a decade, companies growing, producing heat pumps, solar panels, solar water heaters, inverters, e-mobility solutions, charging infrastructures, and these products to be delivered to Europe, but also to Middle East and even to Asia. And here, again, the banks will have a critical role to play. It is not about just manufacturing facilities, it is about entire supply chains and recognizing those business opportunities. This is what it is about. We are to work with those supply chains and help them flourish and develop. And last but not least, we keep on talking about banks and how banks can start a transition journey. It is also about corporates and mid-sized companies. Under GEF Turkey, we will have support for and advisory support for mid-sized companies to also assess their climate risks and start the transition journey. But for large corporates, we also have a technical advisory package, and we allocated 25 million euros to support large corporates in the EBRD region to develop low-carbon pathways for their industries, for their companies, and we invite companies to engage with the BRD, talk to us, talk to your relationship people in the banks, and ask for support. Support is there.
Thank you very much for bringing a positive color to our discussion by underlining the green opportunities, and also for your message and readiness to support financial institutions and the real sector economies, companies Turkey. And to conclude, I think it will be great to provide a message for financial sectors, colleagues, and for the company in the real sector economy to inspire further collaborative efforts towards a greener future. And Başak, could you please speak a little bit what lies ahead and what do you see as a BRSA's key future priorities?
Actually, too much things we have to do in a very short time. I think we all agree at this issue. I mean, the most important challenge of the sustainable finance is the data problem. So I give more importance to taxonomy studies. You know that the Turkish taxonomy studies are conducted under the Environment and Climate Change Ministry, but as a BRSA, we also contribute their works. We are following their studies. I think this is the first priority because if we have a common taxonomy, we can have more granular data and we can assess banks' risk management practice. That's the, I think, first priority. And you may know that there is the ongoing study under the Turkish Banking Association Green Asset Ratio. I think it's also important because while studying this ratio, our stakeholder, our partners understand the data problem and it solve our data issues. If we manage to solve the data problem and disclosure framework, we gain more way to assess the banking system risk management practice with regards to climate risks. And I mentioned our studies regarding the guidance on Pillar 2 assessment on risk mitigation of the climate-related risk. This is also our priority. Our main philosophy is to enhance regulatory and supervisory capacity, both for institutions, both for banks, and set clear regulatory and supervisory expectations like ECB approach. And I forgot to say that stress tests and scenario analysis are very important and they will be also in our agenda in the future period. And our main motto, we try to adhere to risk-based approach. I mean, there are some discussion if a project is a green project, its risk weighting should be decreases. Actually, in the first step, as a BS member country, we try to stick to risk-based approach. I think these are our main mottos in the key future priorities.
Thank you for these key messages. And I would like to ask my next question to Gamze. You mentioned earlier about your business model and about a large portion of SME clients in your portfolio and how you're very eager to support them and provide them with the financing, but also make sure that they're also on track in their green journey. So maybe can you speak a little bit more about the obstacles that you faced engaging with them, and maybe also provide like kind of inspiring points and examples of how you solve these obstacles?
Sure. Indeed, Başak Hanım already mentioned about the challenges. So I think my part is very much related, connected to Başak Hanım's sharings. Of course, first of all, it's the macro outlook. After the post-pandemic recovery and the period where we're having this global energy crisis, global macro problems all around, the pricing becomes an issue for especially for the SMEs. Of course, with special financing, we try to support these customers. And indeed, I mentioned earlier about the share of green financing with our portfolio. But of course, we know that there needs to be more done in that area. Of course, we are developing a very a variety of products and services. To name a few, it's the solar loan, it's the green office premises loan, it's the green vehicles loan, it's the electric charging station installation loans. Moreover, it's the marine conservation loan. So there are so many products that we offer to our customers. But the macro outlook and the financing is a critical issue. I don't like to mention it as an obstacle, but as a challenge maybe. And we know the importance of reaching to favorable green financing, and we would like to mention once again the importance of support from institutions, from IFIs, EBRD's commitment to Turkey is very crucial for us to continue to support our customers. And it's also critical, not in terms of reaching to financing, but also upskilling our selves to offer for our customers, and also rebuilding our business models, embedding ESG concepts, embedding ESG risk analysis within the business model is all critical. And we know that starting from EBRD, we have a lot learned in this respect as well. Yes, we have come a long way, but definitely there is more to do. Başak Hanım already mentioned about the taxonomy. We know that it is critical. Green supporting or brown penalizing facilities, tools is important, like the higher or lower risk weights or tax incentives provided to our customers. As I said earlier, it is set within the strategy of İşbank. We will do our best to support this green transformation of the economy. As I said, heading towards our second century. So we cannot continue to exist without our client base. And we will do whatever needed to support our client base, but this taxonomy or tax incentives or the data problems to overcome this quantification problems, reaching out to better financings is all challenges that we are facing. Well, we know that together, again, touching upon the importance of collaboration in this manner, we know that we will do our best to go for this green transformation of the Turkish economy.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience. It looks like that we are really running out of time, and I would like to, if you don't mind, dear panelists, just to address like one question to three of you. What will be your key takeaway message from this panel for our people in the audience and for everyone in the financial sector and the real economy sector in Turkey? Can I just briefly?
Of course. I would say stay focused. Don't lose your hope. Keep climate above everything. And continue with capacity building, raise awareness, upskilling. These are not lip service, and continue with the integrated thinking as well. Otherwise, it's not easy to go. Thank you.
In my opinion, in the future, everybody must to deal with sustainability. Otherwise, it will be very hard for them to make business, to reach financing, luckily. And otherwise, I want to add something. At the moment, we are working on blue leasing, which is water protection technologies with a special funding. I think it will be a hot topic in the early future.
This is the trend to watch.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yes. And maybe literally a few words from my side. This is this time of the year when we hear so many pledges from governments, corporates, institutions. Everyone is in Sharm el-Sheikh at COP and announcing their commitments. But actually, commitments are not delivering impact. What delivers impact, it's us working together, coming together, learning from each other, our long-standing relationship, knowledge of the market, and ability to deliver what is needed by companies. Technical support, financing, advisory, and policy instruments that are fundamentally important to give additional push. So I really would like to stop here, I guess, but invite everyone to continue discussing around coffees. No?
Yes, thank you all again, and a special thank you to our panelists who have shown actually how real climate leadership in Turkey looks like. And as the EBRD and as all the participants of the financial system, I think we are delighted to see that with the help of regulator, there have been a lot done in this journey toward a lower carbon economy, and Turkish financial institutions been actively joining various international organizations and alliances and trying to shape their efforts in line with the international community's efforts toward more greener future. And I hope that today's panel insight will help to inform how institution green transition journeys will transform our economy and how we will all together work toward a better future. And I think that will be all for our panel today. But before we leave the stage, I would like to announce and invite one of my colleagues from EBRD. And I am especially glad to do this announcement because we had this insightful and fruitful panel with the beautiful ladies, so like a blooming garden, and you can see that all of the panelists, they're like a top executive position in the major financial institution in Turkey. And I would like to invite Teresa Niederle, who is my colleague from Gender and Economic Inclusion team. And she will speak a little bit more on women empowerment and gender inclusion. But before she will do her speech, we have also a very short video about how we've been helping women entrepreneurs to invest in climate-friendly initiatives. So let's see the video.
Closing gender gaps is not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. It boosts private sector performance and builds stronger national economies. At the EBRD, we also recognise the critical connection between gender equality and climate action. Climate change is one of the defining challenges of our times. Tackling it requires deep changes to how we live, work and think. Women, especially in developing countries, are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change. But they also have a key role in addressing it. This is why the EBRD puts gender equality at the heart of its green investments and policy work.
Dear partners and friends, as you've seen in the video, promoting gender equality is a key priority for the EBRD, and I share Alevtina's joy about seeing such a strong panel of all female leaders in the green finance space. In fact, the EBRD Strategic and Capital Framework, our 5-year strategic plan, sees gender equality as one of the top 3 priorities for our region, together with the green and the digital transformation. This is because we know that women's potential is still untapped in many of our economies, and this is particularly true for Turkey. Female labor force participation remains low, and the financial inclusion gap between men and women in Turkey is in fact about 3 times as large as the average in economies that are emerging. This is why our Green Economy Financing Facility deliberately integrates a focus on women sub-borrowers and to build our partner financial institutions' capacity to serve the female segment as an untapped market potential. The potential is massive, in fact. For instance, In Tajikistan, our partner financial institutions were able to increase their share of green loan finance clients, of female clients, from 28 to 40% within 3 years. And in Kazakhstan, women sub-borrowers make up more than 65% of all sub-borrowers under the GEF facility last year. I am optimistic that in Turkey we can achieve equally impressive results. Results that reflect the unique market context and the unique economic situation of Turkey. Just last week, at the 10-year anniversary of our Women in Business program, we heard that whoever wins the women's market segments wins the race. And we believe this is also true when it comes to green finance. This is why we look forward to supporting all partner financial institutions under this new facility with the expertise to better reach out to women sub-borrowers and bring them into the program. We also raise awareness among prospective women sub-borrowers about the benefits that green technologies can offer them, addressing the supply and the demand side of the gender finance gap in Turkey. I look forward to seeing the results that we can jointly achieve with the GEF in this country. Thank you very much.
We want to hold you, please, here for the photo shoots all together, ladies.